friends, it's Amy at Doki Doki Forest. Welcome. I'm so glad you are here. Now today I am going to be flipping through my Junk Journal January 2024 for hashtag Flip Through Friday. And this hashtag was created by Christina at Christina's Shack. I will have the information down below. You can search the hashtag to see who else is flipping through and sharing things either this week or in previous weeks. And be sure to check out Christina's channel for all kinds of inspiration. And anyone can join in the hashtags. If you have something that you are working on or enjoying, it could be a book, it could be a journal, it could be a slow stitch project, anything you want to share, you can use the hashtag and just tag Christina so she can find you as well. So Junk Journal January. Now it is the end of March, but I did manage to finish. I kept at it. I didn't let it bother me that it wasn't January anymore. I just wanted to finish the journal. So I'm going to flip through the whole thing, including some pages that I haven't shown the process for yet because they're brand new. Then after the flip through, I will show the process video for those last couple of pages and talk about, what I was thinking when I created them. So I hope you enjoy the flip through, and if you're interested, please do stay for the process video for those last pages. The other thing is that I want to tell you Junk Journal January 2024 was created by Meg Journals in collaboration with Get Messy Art. And this was where they created a prompt for each day of January, and then they had a video to go with it for what you could create. And just in case this is your first time here, I just want to remind everyone that I did not watch those videos. I kind of just took the prompt and created whatever came to mind. So if you were following along and watching their videos, then my pages might make no sense because I just sort of did whatever. So thank you, Meg. Thank you, Get Messy Art. I had a lot of fun with this. I had a lot of fun with the prompts, which I'm going to take out now because I won't remember what page was exactly what prompt. But yeah, the prompts are all like 1 or 2 words. I'll put that right here. Okay, so opening up, this was where my prompts were tucked. They're folded and tucked in this little pocket here, and it says A Book of Beasties, which is also what I wrote in last year's Junk Journal January that I created. Page 1 was resolutions. I have this little guy thinking about what are my resolutions? Do I want to make resolutions, or do I just want to set like an intention or have a word of the year and, just all those kind of thoughts when the new year starts? Prompt 2 was quote. So I have, you are never too old to set another goal or to dream a new dream. And that's from C.S. Lewis. And so I have this dragon who's kind of an ancient dragon, like we may think of old as being 100 years old, in human years, but this dragon is ancient and thousands of years old, and they are still dreaming new dreams. So it's never too late and you're never too old. For day 3, we have throwback. So I created this fairy who's in a very Madonna pose and Madonna clothes and fashions and styles from the 80s. We got the black lace washi tape in the background. She's got her jelly bracelets and her lace glove and her bow in her hair. And then for day 4, the prompt was tuck spot. So I made these magical rainbow foxes. And this is a tuck spot right here with this little baby that can come out. There we go. The little tail got stuck for a second. So you have this little baby. And the back I didn't write anything. I thought it might be funny if I just wrote hi. And that's it. But I didn't write it yet. And then they just tuck right back in there, and you can have them sticking out a lot or just like barely peeking out, so it's your choice. Whoever's flipping through this, it's their choice. I should say. Then we had daily log for day 5, so I made a captain's log. I wrote, an excellent day for flying, with clear skies and no sign of the storm trolls. Bartholomew enjoyed practicing his aerial twists and loops, though I did have to hold on tight so as not to fall off. So this is like a dragon captain, someone who's riding dragons and giving reports of what it's like up there flying around. And then day 6 we have memory. So I was thinking of the musical Cats. So I have a cat singing. And for my memory, I wrote, I remember every weekend Dad would take me to the corner store. He would let me pick out a little glass animal each time. I had quite a collection and played with them all the time. Got some music paper in the background there for the musical. Then day 7 was stitched. So I have this lady saying, if you came here for sewing, you're in the wrong place, because I am not a sewer. So this was about as good as I could get, just going around the edge like that. But I do have the sewing paper here. I've got some paper with a little, measuring tape and the thread and the thimble and some of this pattern paper, a little bit of pattern paper. So still had the sewing theme. Day 8 was neutral. So I have these 2 characters, and they are in neutral colors, but they are also just, neutral, on neutral ground with each other. So you might think that this lion griffin dragon would eat the mouse and the mouse would be afraid, but in this case they are buddies. Day 9 was foliage. So I have this fairy that has taken some leaves and fashioned a whole outfit here and a matching headband, and then there's just some leaves all in the background as well. Day 10 was layered. So I created this armadillo. I have some layered paper as well, but I like the way their scale plates layer on top of each other. So that's what I was thinking of. That's what popped in my head, was just the way they have these different pieces that layer over each other, and yet they can all kind of move. And then for day 11, it was eclectic. So I just made this glue book page, gluing a bunch of different things on, like if you walked in somebody's house and they just had all these different patterns and sort of collectibles, and you just say to yourself, well, that's quite an eclectic mix. Can't quite figure out what the theme of this house is or what style in particular they like. Well, they like eclectic. Day 12 is torn edges. So I made this character, which is a moth, and then I tore paper to make these wings. Day 13 is garden, and so instead of a garden outside in the ground, I decided to do the octopus's garden under the sea. Day 14 is pattern. So I have this leopard here who, instead of spots, they have a heart pattern. And then there's a nice swirly pattern in the background as well. Day 15 was opposites. So I have 2 opposite dragons kind of intertwined. So like one's horns are curled back, the other ones are curled forward. This one has round, scale plates on their front, and this one has more spiky. And again, on the back, they have these spiky, kind of fin scales sticking up, and this one has rounded. And then color schemes, they're opposite as well. And then I have silver and gold, just to go around the edges and make a border, and also like silver and gold are sort of like, I don't know if they're opposites, but let's say they're opposites. 16 is flow. So I have this unicorn's mane just flowing and sparkling in the moonlight. Day 17 was whimsical. So we have our happy little mushroom. going for a walk and they've found a little friend. And day 18, we have borders. So I made this dragon border here, making a frame around this key, which is kind of like glowing or emitting some kind of sound waves or, you know, something. Some sort of magic key. And then we have day 19 was interactive. And for this one, this was inspired 100% by my youngest son. He came up with this idea. He wanted to have a little snow person, and inside would be a hamster. So this one, you get the hamster, and they're inside this snow hammy. And then tuck them right back in there. Day 20 was nature, so I did another glue book kind of page with all these different animals. It's nice every once in a while to go to glue booking because, you know, the illustrations are super fun. I love to do it, but it can be a lot of work, so it's kind of nice to have some pages like this as well. Oh, I forgot to mention, I just saw peeking out was the next prompt on 21. This one also counted for peeking out as well, because he's peeking out. It's interactive, and they're peeking out. The hammy is peeking out of the little snow ham there. So then we go on to day 22, which was bookshelf. So I have this little book nook in a tree, and there's a little owl enjoying a book there. You can't quite tell what this is, but these are supposed to be acorns that a squirrel stashed in there. And yeah, it's just a cozy little book nook, a little library in the woods. Day 23 was texture, so I have this flamingo with textured legs with some nice glitter on there, very shiny. And then I have some different textures with the fabric. Fabric was also day 24, so I have fabric in the background. Actually, it's just this, the sunflowers, which are the fabric. This is painty paper, and then I just stuck on this little pom-pom kind of trim, so we have some different textures. And I was hoping to find a feather to stick on here for this guy too. I didn't find one yet, but if I find one and I remember, I'm going to glue one in here. Day 25 was ombre, so we have this owl dragon that just sort of has all the colors flowing into each other, and the idea was that I wanted it to be sort of like a beautiful sunset. The coloring was like a sunset. Maybe over the water, I guess, because we go into these blue tones. So, you know, sky and, you know, the sun setting and then the water. And then the last page, which I have shown already, is this one here. Day 26 was translucent. So I made this little frog moth with these translucent wings. So you can see through them a little bit, but not 100%. You know, it's kind of cloudyish when you look through them. So now the new pages. We have day 27 was lyrics. So we have this wolf howling or singing at the moon. I have this music paper, and it even says night song on it, and I made a moon out of it. And then I also wrote the lyrics, or the title anyway, Fly Me to the Moon. That's our little happy wolf singing. Then day 28 was grungy. So I have this little flying pig or wild boar sort of creature, and they are just having a blast stomping and playing in all of this mud. They've got some muddy puddles. There's mud everywhere. So that's the grungy, is they're just getting all grunged up because this started off as a, you know, pretty pristine watercolor pig, and then grunging it up with all of this mud splashing everywhere. Day 24 was geometric, which I knew would be a struggle for me because, yeah, having to do things in specific shapes and, you know, geometry, and it's just not, you know, something that I am a natural at, let's say. I'm kind of more wonky. So as you can see, we've got some wonky honeycomb here. So I decided to have a story where these two bees are left in charge of making honeycomb, and neither of them are doing a good job, or at least, they're not doing it quite the way one would expect to have the honeycomb look. So this one's all wonky, some of them are spaced out, some of them are squished, we got these little things in between. And then this one is making these ones that look like jewels, or I was thinking they looked like rupees from the game, from the Zelda games, like Legend of Zelda games. And the rupees are little jewels you collect, and they're worth a certain amount, and that's the currency in the game. So I gave him a little Link hat as well, since he's got the rupee-shaped honeycomb. And so this one's like, hey, I don't think you're doing those right. Those don't look like the right shape at all. And this guy's like, well, I don't think you're one to talk. I mean, yours don't look quite right either. So they're both having a discussion. And I think the other bees, when they return, are, they may not be too impressed with what these bees have done. Come back and be like, what the heck is that? We leave you two in charge for one afternoon, and this is what you do. And then day 30, we have travel. So we have this interstellar snail. It's very shiny. I've got the sparkle Mod Podge on there. And then we have some iridescent paint on there. And this little frog is riding on top of the snail. And they are just traveling the universe. And our very last page is day 31, reflect. And we have this unicorn gazing into this reflecting pool in the forest. And at first, I was going to make a reflection in the water. I was going to make a unicorn. Then I thought, oh, maybe they'll see a reflection of a girl or something else, or a boy. And then I decided I didn't want to have anything in there. And instead, I just wanted to write, what do you see? And I wanted to leave it up to whoever's looking at this book to think about, like, what would this unicorn see? Or if you were this unicorn, what would you see in the water? And it doesn't have to be a reflection of you. It just could be like, what do you see? Anything. So I liked that idea better than me kind of telling you what to see. And that does it. And then on here, I'm probably just going to write, I completed this in March 2024, and then just kind of write a little bit about the experience. So I still have to finish that up, but the pages themselves are done. So I feel really good about completing this. And next up, I'm going to get into some glue booking, because now that I've done so much illustration lately, I'm looking to get back into glue book. So next up, if you want to hang out, I'm going to share with you the process videos of how I did those last few pages. So stick around if you'd like to see that. If you are heading out now, I just want to thank you so much for stopping by. I really appreciate you being here, and I hope to see you again soon. And for those of you hanging out, let's get into the process. So for the lyrics page, I knew right away I wanted to draw a wolf howling at the moon. I just feel like, they're like singing at night, singing to the moon. And there's a lot of songs about the moon too, so I figured I could have some fun there. I was editing the sketch because I wanted to try to make the features nice and fluffy. I didn't want them to be too narrow. I wanted to be sure that this didn't look like a fox and looked like a wolf. So I was trying to make them nice and fluffy, make the features like a little bit thicker than you would for a fox. And of course the coloring is going to be different as well. So I'm going with like purples and blues. I know foxes are no, I'm saying fox. Wolves are more, gray. You get the gray wolves and they have some brown, but I'm taking some liberties. Instead of just doing gray, I decided to just do all these kind of cool tones. And then I was thinking that I would have this wolf howling. So I would do this in watercolor. And then I remembered I had this book I had picked up at a book sale. And it's chock full of these music pages. And the book is falling apart. And I thought, I wonder if there's a song in there about the moon. Because there's a lot of different songs in there about all different things in nature. And sure enough, there was a page with a song called Night Song. So I sketched on there and then did some watercolor on there. Yes, that is a moon, even though it looks sort of more planet-like. It's all different colors. And then I didn't want to have this white background or gray background. It's kind of like an off-white. So just covering that up with some black acrylic, and then I just sprinkled some watercolor silver paint on there before it dried. And then once the paint dried, I glued on the Night Song moon and then the wolf. And then I was looking up different songs that have, you know, the word moon in them. And I saw like Bad Moon Rising and what else did I see? Blue Moon and Moon River. But I like Fly Me to the Moon, so I put that one on there with my white gel pen. And of course, add some stars. Love to add little dots and stars to things. And then we have grungy. You can see at the top of this page, I had sketched a flying pig that I then decided to change because I felt like even though I liked the first one, I wanted the pig to be more active, like not just standing there. So I wanted this pig to look like they were stomping and playing in the mud. And then I'm just trying to make sure it fits on the page. I didn't want the wings to be so large that I couldn't fit the image. It's okay if they go off the page and I can still close the book, but I just have to make sure they don't go off the page when it's the side that's going into the center. You know what I mean? Got to be able to open and close the book. So the first thing we're going to do is paint this pig. This is going to be a happy little clean pig, but then we are going to grunge them up. So of course, I've got my watercolor paints, and I'm just adding in some blue tones, and then I dry those before I went in here and painted the belly. So just so you know, as you're watching this, I don't have the time in here either that I'm drying it with the heat gun or if I let it air dry. I edit that out. But just so you know, I did let all of the blue and the pink dry before I went in there and put in the body color. Adding some warm tones. I thought about making it like a fully colored, pig, but then I was like, no, I'm just going to keep the fur color more natural, and we'll just have some spots of color here and there, like the ears and the nose. The nose looks like a smiley face, doesn't it? I noticed that, but I was like, I'm just going to leave it. And then just doing my white gel pen details that I love to do. And then once that's all dry, gluing it down on the page. And now we're gonna get grungy. So I am getting some modeling paste and adding in some brown acrylic paint, mixing that up and just putting it on the page. And when this dries, it will have like a 3D effect that may not quite come through on camera, but it does come through, if you're actually flipping through the book. You can see these textured muddy bits. I hope it looks like mud. It was a little tricky for me to actually put mud on the pig, because the pig was nice and clean, and then I had to go and splash mud on them, but you got to do what you got to do for art. And then once that had dried, I went in and just added some like lumps and bumps, like some muddy bits there. And next we have geometric, and that is me trying to remember how to draw a honeycomb and completely getting it wrong. And that's kind of what kicked off this whole theme, because of course I didn't sketch it with pencil first on the page. I just went right in with my Posca pen. And I'm using my Posca pen because I knew I wanted to use watercolor. So if you use that pen and let it dry, you can go ahead and use watercolor right over it. But because of the way I had created those honeycomb pieces, or, images and I made them so like poorly, basically, it gave me the idea of having these two bees, and neither one of them is very adept at creating these geometric honeycomb patterns, these beautiful patterns in nature that you find. And these two bees are left in charge and they are just kind of screwing it up. They are not very good at their job, or maybe they are. Maybe they're innovators. Maybe the way they create the honeycomb, who knows? Maybe that'll be the bee trend of 2024. Maybe they're just ahead of their time and misunderstood. But either way, I knew I had to have this link bee because, like I said, the honeycomb on the left side looks like the rupees from The Legend of Zelda. And then this little guy, he's just kind of got his own shape of honeycomb as well. I went with colored pencil for these guys. I decided not to use watercolor. I wanted them to have a softer look and trying to see if I could get them to look nice and fluffy by using the colored pencils. They have like this texture, and I thought, maybe they'll look extra fuzzy. And now I'm going in and I'm painting these honeycomb shapes on the left in the same colors as you would find rupees in the Zelda game. So there's always red, blue, and green. And then I added yellow. So it's almost like there's a couple in there that are sort of like honeycomb, but not quite right. And then on the right, I just colored, and I have this indigo color, and then I had a color I thought was more of a violet purple, but yeah, it came out like that, and that's fine. And then I just wanted the graph paper to not be white, so went over that with yellow. I'm not sure why I did yellow because I have yellow bees, but I was probably thinking maybe it's like the background honeycomb. And then I didn't want to have the white in between the honeycomb pieces either. So just filling that in with some color. And I felt like the bees really blended in a bit too much. I wanted them to pop out more. So I added the Stabilo pencil with some water. And we're moving right on to travel. And we're going to get some messy black paint. I put on way too much, so I had to put this, it's actually my Chunky Junkie journal, I put under there to catch the paint. And there was so much on the brayer, I just used a paintbrush and got some off the brayer and put that on. And then I wanted it to look like a galaxy, so adding some of the neon yellow, which is like one of my favorite colors. Never thought I would say that, but I absolutely love it. And then I'm adding some of this bright pink and just swirling some designs in there because I want it to look like they're moving. They're traveling across the sky. And who's moving? Well, that would be the snail and the little frog, which I will make. And then once this paint had almost dried, I thought, oh, I should put some ink on there. And let's splatter some more of this silver watercolor because that will look like little stars in the sky. And so the watercolor went on there and that will dry nicely, but the ink was a bit blobby. So I'm dipping into the ink and I'm splattering that as well. And then just kind of spreading it out all over the place. And now we're going to draw our characters. And these little guys just, I knew right away, they just popped right in my head. I knew I wanted to have this little snail traveling with a little buddy. And I thought a little tiny frog would be just the right sort of friend. And they can just breathe in space. They're totally fine. They can travel through galaxies. They can visit other planets. I'm using all shimmery paints with these two as well. And sometimes these shimmery paints have a tendency to dull the ink lines. In fact, they definitely do. But I didn't go over the ink again. I just figured I would just leave it. Sometimes I do. Sometimes after I'm done painting, I'll go over the ink again if it really kind of fades or gets covered up a lot. But I decided I was okay with it. I was just going to leave it. And just adding some shadows and a couple little details as well. I wanted the snail to have some spots, or some little blush too, and then some little spots. And then just a little more detail on the shell. And I want to put a little shadow under that frog. And that's pretty much it. And then once that was all dry, I cut that out, used my tacky glue to glue that in with the trusty rock. And then once that was dry, I got some acrylic paint, and now I'm just trying to make it look like there's little like clouds as they're traveling through. I don't know, just like kind of like these mystical clouds and vapors, and they're just going through the atmosphere. And I just wanted it to look kind of spacey. And I think I put on a bit too much white, so I'm adding some of this, what's it called? Opal Magic. It's an acrylic paint that's very shiny and iridescent or opalescent, and it's really pretty. So I love this stuff. So I added that in, and then I liked it a lot better than just having the white. And of course, just a few details with that white gel pen. And then I thought, well, they are traveling through space. Maybe some more sparkle Mod Podge. So I put that on to make some more stars and more sparkle in the sky or space or galaxy, whatever they're traveling through. Milky Way, I don't know. And finally, we have Reflect. And right away, I knew I wanted to have a unicorn gazing into the water. And for some reason, I was having a hard time drawing the unicorn at first. I was like drawing the ears huge, the eyes huge. I mean, I kind of do that anyway, and then I started drawing like a dragon sort of a face, because my dragon face and my horse face can look pretty similar. But finally, I got a design that I liked. And this is a 2-page spread, and I really love having like this mane with the messy hair, and then I like having the longer hair kind of going down the unicorn's back. And we're using some watercolor. I used watercolor for most of the pages in this book, and maybe all of them. I don't know. Did I use watercolor on every single? I'd have to go through the flip through again. I feel like I did, except for those pages that were like glue book pages. I have a couple like that. But watercolor is like my medium of choice. So I do have other things. I have gouache, colored pencil. I even have alcohol markers. I actually never use those. They have been sitting here, so I might try to stretch myself and use some of those things that I don't generally reach for right away. Like gouache I really love, but I actually haven't used it in, I think, over a year now or so. But I think I'll break those out and start trying to use those more. Those are really fun because they're like a medium between watercolor and acrylic. So I do really like to paint with them. But now I feel like I have to start at the beginning again because it's been a while. So I'm going to have to play with them and get used to them again. So just layering up this unicorn, and then once everything is dry, I will cut them out and fussy cut around the hair and the horn and the grass. And stick them on the page. And this eye, oh my gosh, I did not like that at all. I was like, no, that looks weird. Way too much of the colored part, the iris. So I'm trying to go over it with the gel pen. That didn't really work great. So it works really good here though for detail in the mane and the horn and that sort of thing. But in terms of sort of erasing what I didn't like about the eyeball, I did not feel like that was successful. Sometimes it is. Sometimes all you need is the gel pen. So I tried my Posca pen, but that wasn't working well either. So then I realized, well, I still have some white acrylic here from my space travel page because I did these both on the same day. So I'm using that, and that totally erased the eye. So I was happy with that because I could start over again. And then I'm getting my black Posca marker and I'm redrawing in the eyeball, but this time I decided I'm just going to leave the pupil. I'm not going to try to color in the iris or anything like that because that just was where I felt like it looked weird. And then I'm just figuring out how I'm going to fit the pond on here and what will be in the pond. So as you can see, I was thinking about having this reflection of this figure looking back at the unicorn. And it was only after I had sketched a couple times, I was like, I'm not sure. Let me just make the pond first, and then I'll go from there. And then I slowly, as I'm working on this part, I'm thinking, maybe it's better to just not have anything. Like I don't have to make what the reflection is. I can just leave that up to the viewer. It's kind of fun to let people have their own interpretation, their own ideas of what that unicorn would see in the water. And then I'm just putting some watercolor on the back there, of course, as you can see. And then once that dries, I can glue my pieces in. So I have to glue the pond in first so I can put the unicorn on top of that. And it's just a little bit tricky because it's this watercolor paper, so it's a little bit thicker, but we get it to work. And then in goes the unicorn. And then I did decide that I wanted to add a little bit more grass on the left there because I felt like it looked a little bare. And I added a couple shimmery lines in the water. But yeah, I'm just going to add this grass, and then I'm just going to add, what do you see? I'm going to write that in pen, and then this page is done, and this journal is done. Last prompt. Woohoo! Okay, and that does it. I am so excited to have completed this. Thank you so much if you stayed all the way through to the end. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a wonderful day. Happy Easter, and I will see you again soon.